This book has now become an inspiration for a movie. How happy are you that you now have a situation where a forgotten, unsung hero who took on the mighty British is now going to be recognized so many years after his existence?
I'm over the moon. I'm really delighted that my great grandfather is being recognized
Yes.
for the man and the hero that he was.
So I honestly feel that this was a story that had to be told.
Why do you think this story is relevant even 106 years after it happened?
Okay, he was in the central government at that time, but he was from Kerala, right south, right? And here we're talking about the north, Punjab. It was a fight that he had to take on alone.
It was a fight of one Indian for all Indians alone.
Oh, well said.
Let the whole world also know that there is no fairness in the British legal system.
And that's
Let
how it stood exposed.
everybody get to know.
Hello and welcome to this special presentation right here on the Red Mic. Now, as you are aware, we have done a few programs on Jallianwallah Bagh, and all of us know what General Dyer did and subsequently what happened. But this was a story of a lesser known hero, an unsung hero, who ought to be celebrated even now as we are going to observe the 106th anniversary of the Jallianwallah Bagh incident, which took place in 1919. Now, a new movie is coming on depicting the life of this hero called C. Shankaran Nair, Chettur Shankaran Nair. And the more we are reading up on Mr. Nair, the more fascinating his life turns out to be. Now, there are two people right here with me who have documented that life in the form of a book called The Case That Shook the Empire. Mr. Raghu as well as Pushpa Palat are now with us. Thank you very much for joining us. Raghuji also happens to be the great grandson of Chettur Shankaran Nair. Thank you very much for joining us. My first question that I wanted to ask you, Raghuji, this book has now become an inspiration for a movie. How happy are you that you now have a situation where a forgotten, unsung hero who took on the mighty British is now going to be recognized so many years after his existence?
Thank you for having us, Sanket. And I'm over the moon. I'm really delighted that my great grandfather is being recognized
Yes.
for the man and the hero that he was.
If you saw the launch of the trailer, he got very emotional. It's very important
Uh-huh.
for him, because up to now, like you say, he's been unsung.
And not
Unsung.
only that, now that the movie is coming out and all that, all my other cousins, all great grandchildren of Sir Chetu Shankar Nair, there are 32 of us. We're all delighted.
Yes.
Not one, all of us are delighted.
So
When you were Pushpaji and Raghuji, when you were researching on this book, when did the idea? This movie Kesari 2 is based on what you've written in this book, the case that shook the empire. And for all our viewers who are still unaware, please do watch our earlier video where we list out what Chetur Shankaran Nair did. Sir Nair was part of the British Empire, and when he saw what the British did in Jallianwallah Bagh, resigned and took them to court, their very court, their system, their legal system, and argued how they were so wrong. Raghu and Pushpa Palat, would you like to tell us one by one when was that time when you thought of writing this book and documenting it? When did you learn that this is what Sir Nair has done?
Okay, I will tell you, when I was growing up, I do remember hearing of the case that Sir Shankar Nair fought from my grandfather, who was his eldest son and only son, and my father, but I didn't know too much about it. It so happened that Pushpa wanted to go to the Golden Temple at Amritsar, and so we went there. And on our way back, I'm quite a history buff.
Hmm.
I saw Jallianwallah Bagh written, the notice about Jallianwallah Bagh board. So I said, let's go and have a look at it. We've still got time, let's go and have a look at it. And we went in, we saw the wall with the bullet marks, we saw the martyrs' temple, at least and all the other horrors that were
When was this?
This was in 2017.
Oh.
2017. And after that, we went into the museum. And as I was walking across, we were watching all the exhibits. Pushpa rang to me excitedly and said, "There is a plaque in honor of your grandfather." And so we looked at it. And then she said, "You must take a photograph of it." I wasn't sure whether we could, but she persuaded a policeman to allow us to take a photo. And after that, when I came out, I said, I must document this for my children. I must find out. And I started writing an article. And when I ever write articles, I always show it to her because she's also a very good writer. And then she said, this cannot be confined to an article for your two children, Divya and Nikina. It must be made into a book for everyone to read. And that's the idea of the book.
And I must say, it's almost like this book was meant to be written. If you think about it, I go to the temple, I do my darshan, all right? And if you walk out of the temple, the Golden Temple, there's shops and so many exciting things to buy and this, that. But we were directed directly to Jallianwallah Bagh. Raghu misses the whole thing, and I see the plaque. You see? And I point it out, and I take his photograph. And it was almost like we were meant to tell. We have never written a historical novel. We have never written together. Forget anything else. Where's the question of historical novel? He's a history buff. I'm not. I write. But yes, I write stories. But Raghu is a history buff. Where was the question of us ever coming together and writing a historical novel? So I honestly feel that this was a story that had to be told. And it has been taken up by one of the biggest production houses to make a film. Let's face it. So it's getting a worldwide release. So I feel that honestly, divine intervention or whatever you might call it, but it was this story needed to be told. And that is why it's coming out as a movie on the 18th.
Let me ask you, both of you actually, why do you think this story is relevant even 106 years after it happened?
Well, I feel that, see, it was a person, okay, he was in the central government at that time, but he was from Kerala, right south, right? And here we're talking about the north, Punjab. It was a fight that he had to take on alone, right? How many people, except one who really believed that he is Indian, would fight like this with all his resources, almost go bankrupt, and not give up and still stick to his principles because he felt there was an injustice done in a state way, way away from his home state. Okay. And also being part of the government, he's resigned from the government. He said, I can't be part of a government that can, enforce these kinds of atrocities on people. So I feel that, in the end, when it comes to all of us, whether there's, something cruel and is inflicted on anybody, all Indians feel it. And this was the South and the North together. They combined together. So when he
It was a fight of one Indian for all Indians.
Yes.
That was what it was.
Yes.
Apart from
sorry,
that,
could you repeat that?
Significant.
There was an audio glitch. Could you just repeat what you said?
Okay. It was a fight of one Indian for all Indians alone.
Oh, well said. Well said.
Yes.
Apart from that, you've got to look at it from another perspective. The way colonial rule occurred, whenever any atrocities were done, the British censored the press and kept all the information to themselves, so it was never revealed. It was purely because Sir Shankaran Nair resigned from the Viceroy's Executive Council and made a huge hue and cry about the whole thing, and the fact that his resignation reverberated in the halls of Parliament, that the Hunter Commission was instituted, the minorities report came out, and all the horrors came out. Otherwise, the British kept everything,
So you had this
within themselves.
rosy picture.
You see, there were many other atrocities that they did.
Yeah.
There was, about something like 3,000 people were killed in Rajasthan, shot in the northeast, and there was another massacre. Nobody knows about it.
1,500 in the northeast. But
We
just
came about
lined
all
up and
this
shot.
during our research, and apart from all that, was British justice fair? We talk about everything being fair and a jury trial. Here you had a trial with 12 Englishmen and a racist judge who favored Sir Michael O'Dwyer.
So, and being such a eminent and erudite lawyer, barrister, he must have been kind of disappointed with the proceedings because he knew it was not being conducted legally by
No,
law.
but then, Miss Pushpa, don't you think that this is a case where, knowing fully well that this will be a system which is wired against him, which will favor the British, he still fought this and fought this alone. So it was not really the result, but the
No,
fact that this had to
No,
be done.
he knew
He
the
says that.
he
He
knew
says
the case was stacked against him. If you really look at it, he had first for the case hired Mr. Hastings, Sir Hastings. He was elevated as Attorney General and could not represent him. Then he asked Sir John Simon. Sir John Simon said, "You've got a very good case." But the night before, I'm not really sure what the reason is, but the night before, he sent a telegram from Paris saying, "I cannot represent you." So the day before the case, he did not have anybody. So he had to call upon another barrister who was not as erudite, as capable to represent him. You see, then, and he knew the case, the thing, there was 12
jury.
white jury and all that, but he believed, and that is he was a man of law, and he believed the law is just.
But
But
tell me something. Through the
that's
course of your research for this book, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah.
You were
So
saying.
when he sat in the court and saw what was happening, realize. I mean, once you do the research, you begin to feel like your protagonist, and you begin to realize that it must have been heartbreaking for him, who actually worshipped the law. If you know what I'm trying to do, law was the be all and end all, and here it was being completely flouted in a court, and that was his really home ground. This was where he
Yeah.
was. This was where he felt best. And here it was being flouted openly. And he knew the results, he knew everything. He knew everything. But his point was, let the whole world also know that there is no fairness in the British legal system.
And that's
Let
how it stood exposed.
everybody get to know. Let's expose it. Let's make it apparent, because every day there was press coverage, worldwide press coverage.
Yes,
From all
it was
over the-
reported in the Times of London. It was Straight Times in
Singapore.
Singapore, in Canada, in Australia, throughout the British Empire. And when we were doing a research, we got news reports of every single day of the 5.5 week trial. So we could follow it exactly how it went.
And so, though we had a lot of personal information, such Chetu Shankaran being his great grandfather, we never put that down. We always checked it factually. So, the book is entirely factual historically. We have personal insight, yes, of course, but we cannot put it down in a book because it's been he said, she said. Do you get what I'm saying? So that
Yeah.
doesn't. But and even the documented researched work is so horrifying. It's so horrifying.
Very, very interesting. See, the question that I wanted to ask you was, while researching for this book, the case that shook the empire, Mr. Raghu, you just now mentioned that he fought this battle alone. Now, my point is, I can understand that he fought this battle alone in the courts of the British. But on the streets, for there to be resentment against the Raj, against the British, why was he still alone in doing this as well?
No,
No,
he was.
the case was against him.
Yeah.
That is why it was alone. The case was against him
by O'Dwyer.
by O'Dwyer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
But there were a lot
Fine.
of
There were people in the Punjab who supported him,
and also they'd written.
and they gave written depositions. They were the judge, being racist, did not allow all the depositions to be read out in court.
And the Indians couldn't afford to go
And
there.
the Indians couldn't only two. He had only two witnesses. You must remember that. One was George Walden, who was a principal of a college, and he had returned to England, so he could come as a witness. And another one was Mr. Harkishan Lal, who went to England at his own expense to support Sir Nair.
So the other
All the
people
others were
couldn't,
all
but they
poor.
gave in their positions, they gave in their point of view, they told their story.
And
Very
when those
interesting.
depositions were read, the world was horrified.
Even
But
those
they could
few.
not appear in front
They
in
couldn't
the
appear,
court.
they could not appear. So he was fighting for the common man. He was not fighting for the influential.
For himself or his honor. Yeah,
And
I get the point that you're saying.
It was
And you know, the point that you two mention about him knowing that this case will be stacked against me, that these guys, there will be a biased hearing, and yet going ahead and doing this so that the world knows what is happening. And it's
He also
reportage
says
like
in his
this.
autobiography, I want to make sure that there is never, ever again a Jallianwallah Bagh.
That was his
He
statement.
said that. In
He
his
said,
autobiography, he
yes,
says that.
He says that. I will make
Very-
sure that there never, ever is a Jallianwallah Bagh again.
Yeah,
That was
and this was such a way to put pressure on the empire, no?
Yeah.
That you fight a
And
case, you
that's
know
how-
you will lose, and yet fight it.
Yes. So that's how, he, and at that time, they had, the Punjab sentiments hadn't been inflamed to such an extent till after the case. Because still a lot of the information was not available to them. Now, suddenly, everything was out in the, black and white, as it were. And then the Punjab rose up. It was, they said, no more, we want freedom, we want freedom, we want freedom.
And Mahatma Gandhi said it very nicely. He said, Sir Nair put the British system and the British government and the British legal system on trial, and they were found wanting. Those were his words in Young India.